Hey guys, I'm Katie from Equestrian Movement, and I thought that today we should probably just cover a little bit of placement around the horse, trying to keep ourselves as safe as we can when we are working around our horses. So obviously they're big and they can hurt us. So there's specific places that we want to be aware of when we're around our horses to make sure that they can see us, that they know that we're there, and also that we have a clear pathway to get out of the road, or they have a clear pathway to get out of our road if things do happen. They get, their startle reflexes will just go instinctively if they get caught by surprise. So we want to be aware of our body placement around them. So firstly, we've got Rafi tied up here. His lead rope isn't long enough to put his foot through. And when we're looking at where we want to be, we're creating an angle from their flank out this way diagonally, and we're looking at about the same from their shoulder here as well, so from their shoulder out this way. That has a lot to do with where their vision is. So because their eyes are on the side of their head, they can't see directly in front of them, they can't see directly behind them, but that also does angle as well. And what you'll see is if he's paying attention to me, he will turn his head to keep an eye on, see how he's turned his head to keep me in his vision there? He will turn his eye to see where I'm moving to when I've put myself in that more vulnerable position of his vision there. So if our horse has, completely gone to sleep and we go up into that area that's out of their vision, then we can really startle them because they don't see us. And this honestly is the only time I've been kicked in the head, is when I have approached a horse while they're being fed in outside of their vision, because obviously they thought I was a horse coming up behind them or something along those lines. So when we're moving around our horse to go behind them, when they're tied up, we're not going to duck under. That puts us in a vulnerable position, because if our horse has an issue, they can't go anywhere but over the top of us because they're tied up. So we move around them by going tightly around their butt. So hand is placed within their range of vision so that they can see us there, they know that that's where our hand is, and we hug ourselves in nice and tight against their hindquarters until we get over into this other section of vision down this side of them. The reason why we want to put ourselves nice and tight here is if they do kick out, he's only going to get my leg, whereas if I take some more space out here and I'm behind him, he will get me in my head. So it's really important that if we are going to go behind them, I don't even have enough space here between that gate to give myself enough distance to safely move around behind him. So I'm going to come over this side. If we're going to move around behind him from over here, we want to get really quite a long way out of that strike zone there, where if he does kick out, he can't kick my head. So having another look at where those angles are coming from, when we're talking about the shoulder here, we're going out on that diagonal line. Hey buddy. And the same with our flank here, from about that stifle area, we can go fairly diagonally out from there. And so probably about here is how far I want to get to before I would think about going behind him. He has short legs. I don't think he can reach me from here, but you really do want to be aware of that distance when you are behind him. So the reason why we kind of keep to the confines of this angle here is if he were to kick out with his leg does go diagonally out backwards. They can kick forwards, but they don't have quite as much power, and they don't often do it unless they're really upset with you. So he could still kick me from here, but he'd have more of a strike from his hindquarter there, and it would bruise me and it would still hurt, but it won't do as much damage as if I was in that more power range of his strike. We get taught a lot of horse etiquette. With our horses, you've probably heard to always be on your horse's left side when you're handling them. It is good to get them comfortable with you being on both their left and their right side, tacking them up, brushing them, leading them, just so that if it does happen that somebody that doesn't know what they're doing approaches them or saddles them up or what have you, if they do approach from the other side or mount from the other side, your horse isn't going to have a coronary. One of the really important things to remember with our horses is that because their eyes are on the side of their head, they actually can see something different with each eye. So if they've seen you or seen something with their left eye and not with their right, and they see it with their right eye, it's like seeing something new again. So if you've introduced something to them, to their left eye, then you want to also be introducing it to their right eye. Otherwise, they can still spook or startle at it just because they don't think it's the same thing. Would you like to look at the brush? We might have to wake him up a little bit. You've got a job to do with doing some targeting. It's a really terrifying brush. Good boy. So if I'm going to go show it to his right eye, I'm going to go nice and tight around his hindquarters, keeping my hand on his rump so that when I do go out of his sight, he still knows that I'm there. And we can show it to his right eye. And again, we are asleep. There we go, good boy. The other range of vision is downwards. So he can see, again, diagonally going that way and again, diagonally going that way. So something that's, say, on the floor, say like here, he can't really see it. So if that was something scary, you'll see them put their head right down, but they'll also twist it to the side that they're most confident with that eye from to look at it before, you know, they walk over it or approach it or whatever you're asking them to do. Hey guys, Katie here from Equestrian Movement, and I just want to talk a little bit today about how to move around your horse when it's loose in the paddock. There's certain areas of them that are safer to approach, ways to approach them so that they keep you in their range and so that you don't spook or startle them by coming up on their blind spot. So as we were talking about being tied up, is they can't see you when you're directly in front of them or directly behind them. When we have them loose though, we are quite happily moving around their head and their shoulders here because he has plenty of room to get away from me if he wants to, and I have plenty of room to move. So probably the most dangerous part at this stage, because he's such a dangerous horse, would be if this is him at, say, like feed time or something and I was turning him out. They can get really excited and they can spin and kick out before they run. So when you're taking your horse out into the paddock, you want to be really aware of how excitedly they're going to leave you and making sure that you're setting yourself up there that they're not going to swing into you or kick you as they excitedly run away from you. So when we're approaching our horse in the paddock, we are approaching their shoulder We feel like we want to go and touch their face, but if somebody came to greet you and they came out and like, hi, you wouldn't feel very comfortable with that. So we can give a little fist bump of acknowledgement, but when we approach him, we're approaching the shoulder. So again, we're taking that nice diagonal line into the shoulder where I'm staying in his range of vision. So I'm gonna also talk to him to let him know where I am and that I'm coming up to him. He can say hello, you're welcome to approach me, and then we're going into the shoulder for the pat and saying, hey Raf, and he's just gonna stay asleep. Same thing when we're moving around behind them. You wanna stay, fairly nice and close to them if you're handling them loose. Most of the time also we're staying at their shoulder here. That gives us plenty of room to part ways and we're not near his hindquarters. I would very rarely be doing anything with their hindquarters loose. I may pick out their hooves if I trust them, but that in itself isn't particularly safe, and I acknowledge the risk that I'm taking in doing it. Probably the only thing that you would really want to do around their hindquarters is their leg straps. So when you're approaching their hindquarters here, you're staying nice and tight so that if he is going to kick out to you, it is going to get you here in your leg. And then if you're reaching through, you're hugging yourself close. So the closer you are, the less power they have behind the kick as well. Different to him being tied up, if you want to move around to the other side, you're more likely to move around to the other side in front of them, because then you're keeping yourself out of that strike zone. If you were to move around, again, that gate is too close, so I can't comfortably move around his hindquarters, but I'm given heaps of distance here. I don't want to get kicked in the head. So that is quite enough distance from your horse to approach them, to move around them. If I were to approach him in the paddock and he's up that end facing that way, can you see he's turned his head? I've gone out of his vision there. He's like, what are you doing back there? I can't see you. If I got to here and that horse was asleep, they would not know that I'm here. And this is how I have been kicked before. It's really important that you say a little hello. Bye, Raf. To let them know that you're there. So you'd start talking, at least then they can hear you. So also that distance that I had created there, can you see how I'd also gone out of that distance of connection? So he's like, okay, you don't need me anymore, see ya. I'm gonna go have a drink and get curious about this camera. So that was not only enough distance that I was out of his strike zone, it was also enough distance for that disconnect to happen where he's no longer in his training brain connected to me. So if I was behind him, we're gonna go this way, and I did want to approach him from behind, he's gonna keep putting me in the wrong place, then I'm gonna come around to the side here the same way that he's just placed me, and I would still come in and approach him from the shoulder. So if I did at any stage need to approach from behind, when this is as close as I would want to get before I start angling into his eyesight, he is looking at me from this right eye. We do have that, what is it, rider's etiquette, where everything gets done on the left side instead of the right side. So generally your horse is more comfortable and confident with you approaching on the left than the right. So it is good to do it from both sides if you are going to practice. But I'm going to approach him from the left. So I want to keep that distance until about here. I'm out of that strike zone. And then I'm going to approach his shoulder. So again here, this is me in his strike zone. If he was to kick forward, I'm going to say hi. And pat on the shoulder here. So that's another reason why I like the fist bump as well, is that even though we're going to say hey on the shoulder there, we are also asking for that invitation to approach as well. Am I allowed to approach and touch you? I think that's nice, you know, you don't want people come up to you and just touch you if you're not feeling it.